Hello Norman and Jane, this is Kaylin Huntress with Stellar Platforms, and in this video I'm going to go over the architecture of your sales funnels. Now starting with the Living Organization homepage, as you know we've got these 4 pages, the homepage and then these 3 inside pages that sort of self-segment by themselves. But I've also added in dedicated landing pages, opt-in pages, and calls to action that are angled towards each of the avatars that we've developed. So we can edit these at any point now. We've done the heavy lifting of building all of this architecture, and now I'm going to be looking for your feedback on what works and what doesn't and how we can make it better. Okay, so I'm going to start by letting you know that in Trello, over here all the way on the right, I've got a few lists that describe how this is going to work. We've got a funnel for these 4 segments for C-level executives, mid-level executives and HR, I kind of put into one, consultants, and personal transformation. And in your MailChimp list, I've created segments for each of these. So in the MailChimp account, I'm going to go to Lists, go to Quantum Leaders, and under Manage Contacts, go to Segments. And these segments are now, why didn't it save it? Oh, it's groups, that's right. We had to do demographic groups and then we're creating segments off of that. So the demographic is in these 4 categories: C-level executive, HR mid-level, consultant, and personal transformation seeker. And again, we can modify these as we need to, but now we've built the buckets. And I'm going to demonstrate what I've built to entice everybody who's in each of these different groups. I've made 4 landing pages and 1 thank you page. As it turns out, MailChimp does make it extremely difficult to deliver different opt-in incentives to different segments, and they give you 1 thank you page that you can use for all of the groups. I researched ways to make all of these different lists in MailChimp, but then because that would give us the ability to deliver specific gifts depending on how they opted in. But there's no way to automate combining the lists back together, so there'd have to be some manual work regularly to keep the database clean. And I don't want to set this up in a way that creates manual work for you like that. So instead I use 1 thank you page that delivers all the different gifts. And so I'll go through, starting at the home page, how the flow is going to work. So the Living Organization, we've already been over this page. I took your notes and brought these down here and shrunk the size a little bit. And as you know, we went with calls to action at the bottom to go through as a flow from one page to another. I've moved away from that a little bit, and I have this call to action at the bottom of all of these main pages. What is the pulse of your living organization? Find out in 24 questions. And again, we can modify any of the languaging we need to, but what's important is now this is built, and so it's easy to edit. And this page is based on your document of the 24 questions about strategy that every CEO must answer. And I made it into an interactive form so that now people can self-select how they are doing in each of these areas on a scale of 1 to 10. We may want some other language up here at the top that talks about how, the asking of these questions is valuable strategic work. And so to take the time and ask those questions and think through the answers, and I'm going to leave this up to you on what it is we should put here, but I think that we do need some extra language up here at the top. And so people go through these 24 questions, and I added an extra field just to say, what's your current job title? Because that might give us some useful data. And they can select which group or groups they belong to. And this is going to sort them into those segments as they subscribe, if they subscribe. To protect against spam, instead of using a spam honeypot or anything, they just have to be sure to click one of these checkboxes in order to get the submit button. And if they ask to email the results, then it shows the email field. And if it asks to subscribe to the newsletter, then it goes over to MailChimp. And if they say, hey, please call me, then this conditional formatting adds these fields in at the end so that when they get to this, I don't know if we're going to call it a survey or a quiz or an assessment, when they get to this page, they're not going to be intimidated by, okay, now I have to fill in my name and email and everything. They can just jump right into the questions, and they're only given these fields at the bottom, okay? And so then after they submit, it'll put them into the right segments and give them another call to action, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, I want to go through these other pages and talk about the other funnels. And I've got some intake for the landing pages on each of these pages. So as I said, right now we have the pulse at the bottom of every page. I'm not sure how I feel about this, about having 2 call to actions right at the bottom. And we also have these 2 main calls to action in the footer. So it's kind of busy down here at the bottom. We're probably going to need to make some structural changes down here. But each one of these pages has, in addition to the pulse, they also have a landing page that they can go to. And so for consultants, this is where they'll go, to the page for Wolff's Law, where they want to find out more about it. And when they subscribe, after all these pages, they go to the same thank you page, okay? So this is a place where they can subscribe. It's got your photo, your quote, and it's nice and simple. There's no header, there's no footer, there's nothing else to distract them, because on this page, all we want them to do is subscribe. And so this URL is something that we can use to promote. You know, if you take if you do a Facebook ad campaign, for example, if you do a mailing to graduates of the Stanford MBA program or whatever, or members of a consultant organization, you can use this URL as your click through so that people come here first. And this is a really essential aspect of sales funnels. Now you have a promotional asset that you can use to drive traffic to this page, because we're assuming that a lot of people are going to hear from you the first time at the top of your sales funnel. So they're going to get this link first. And so I want you to imagine these landing pages as the first interaction that strangers have with you. The in-page calls to action we have for the website, those are more for people who already know you and are already on the site. These are for strangers. And so we want to make them clear and easy and concise. We want them to do one thing, and that's subscribe. Over on Soulful Purpose, we left most of this the same. Schedule a workshop is still here. I don't know how you feel about this one. I just thought that since the purpose that this would be for HR managers possibly, or for just transformation seekers, we might want a life coaching call to action, something like that there, and we could pepper it in sections like this as well. And then down here at the bottom, we've got the pulse call to action, and are you ready to discover your own soulful purpose? And again, we can modify this headline to really target somebody who's seeking personal transformation. Who's the individual who's not in a corporate organization, but would still be interested in these principles for personal transformation? And I made a landing page for this type of person. And again, this is somewhere that we can send people that are strangers. And this can be their first interaction with the brand. We've just got the logo, the opt-in form, and a quote from Brew Joy. And then after they opt in, they get the meditation, as well as all of the gifts from the other opt-ins. But these opt-ins segment them as they come in. So if somebody opts in on this page, they're segmented as part of the personal transformation group. Whereas if somebody opts in on this page, they're segmented into the consultants. Does that make sense? Okay, so then on the strategic compass page, we've also got, this is the sort of thing where, if somebody's on one of the other living organization pages, they'll self-segment themselves. A visionary CEO, he's going to click on strategy to see what's here. Someone who's interested in finding their life purpose, they're going to click on purpose to see what's here, and then find the right call to action for them at the bottom. Okay, and then here I didn't do a separate call to action for the final landing page, and I'll show you why in a minute. When people opt in, again, because of the MailChimp limitation, we only have one opt-in page with one list. There are other email providers like ConvertKit that would allow us to give different thank you pages for different lists or different groups or different segments, but MailChimp doesn't allow that. So working within the framework of our limitations with MailChimp, I've designed one thank you page. And this thank you page is for anybody, no matter how they opted in. And I've got some introductory text to let them know that the Quantum Leaders newsletter is what they're actually going to be getting. And I thought this would be the right place to introduce them to the idea that there's 2 brands here, and now we're going to start transitioning you from the Living Organization to Quantum Leaders. And we have, I really like this effect right here, I'm particularly proud of that. And then we have 3 different opt-in incentives for them to get. And again, another chance for them to take the pulse if they haven't done it yet. So I want to go over these 3 incentives with you, because these are places where I could use your feedback. The meditation that I've selected here is from is the Soul Journey meditation from the Foundations course. I don't know if this is the appropriate thing to use here, but you know, I'm part of the challenge that I've been working with is how do I use what we have and the infrastructure that we have and the avatars what we have and the media that we have and put it together in a funnel framework that'll get all the pieces in. And now that we have all the pieces in, it's relatively easy to swap things out. So if you have feedback like, wow, that doesn't work, it's really easy to change, okay? You've seen this, this document before. I made the 1-page printable poster of Wolff's Law. And I also found these documents, it's another 2 pages that go into more detail on the ARC framework. I thought this would be really useful for consultants. And what I'd like to do is to possibly have an introductory page where you talk about how a consultant can use this in their practice. And you know, a bit of a, you know, an introduction and a dialogue. You know, when I was a consultant, I found blah, 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 blah. And so I know in your work as a consultant, you can use this, blah, 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 blah. And if you want to do some more consulting interaction with me, then contact me here. Something like that right at the front of this opt-in incentive, I think could be really useful. I also created, well, we've got this, this MP3. And before we get into the final opt-in incentive, I want to show you what happens after somebody submits. So this is the Pulse formula, or the and after they get their grade, it also presents them with a final opt-in incentive. And this one is also on another page that I made, and I ended up not being happy with. I was doing some thinking on, you know, what are CEOs interested in, and you know, everybody knows Peter Drucker, everybody loves Peter Drucker. But his 5 most important questions, this big thing that he says you have to ask organizations. What happens when that's asked of individuals? What happens when these fundamental questions that over, you know, the last 6 decades of management theory have been used on organizations? I thought this would be an appropriate use of the living organization model. What happens when we take those questions and we ask them of individuals? And so I do have this page at /Drucker. I don't know if we'll use it. I also have the opt-in incentive for this set at the after the strategy assessment is taken. So I don't know if these are the right places for it. But I did build you another creative asset on using these 5 important questions for people versus organizations. And this is the kind of introductory page that I was talking about with Wolff's Law. If you had something that just introduced the concept, I really like a how to use section, you know, so it lets people know, print this out, get some time available, really engage with this material. I think it could increase the engagement that people have with it. And then I just made 2 worksheets. You know, these are the 5 questions that Peter Drucker asks for organizations, and here's these questions reworded for how it can be used for you as an individual. So again, I don't know if this is the right use of your material. I know I kind of went out on a creative limb here in making these. So if this workbook doesn't work, you know, I take no offense. Let's just throw it out. But I thought it could be useful. And if nothing else, it's a framework for what we could do to create opt-in incentives that people could use. We could also turn this into an interactive form so that people fill in their answers, and you do it as a survey. We do have another survey scheduled to come up so that we can survey the existing list and ask them to self-select what demographic that they go into. So that's coming up next. But what I'd like now is I'd like your feedback on these items. I'm going to go ahead and populate these cards with links to these different locations so that you can download and review these in detail. And I'm looking forward to your feedback on what it is that we can change. Making something like this, it takes a lot of activity. There's a lot of heavy lifting that has to go on in the programming and the design, and now that that's done, we can examine this through context and say, does this align with our goals? And I'm really looking to you here for your input on how does this not fit, and what can we change to make it fit with context. And as you start developing that feedback, you can comment on the Trello cards or just email me because I'm looking forward to hearing what you think. So I'll get you some links with, when I send you this video, I'll include a bunch of links so that you can review everything. And I look forward to your feedback. So we'll talk about it soon. Thanks.